in corporate banking, there's a real ladder that you can climb. I was coming fast upon a time where I realized like, hey, this could just be it, and I could never be anywhere else. I could never try anything else. And that was something where I kind of realized I need to make myself uncomfortable again
Okay.
and remove myself from some of these comforts that I have now,
Wait,
which is
so why?
literally
Like, I
meditation.
think a lot of people they chase comfort.
What I really realized was like I wasn't learning anymore. I learned a lot at iDrive by circumstance because we had all these clients and all these different needs, all very unique. When
Yep.
I got to Everbank, I had one client, this company. The circumstance was I was supporting a lot of designers, which was fun, but I worked with one other software developer and I had some IT people I worked with sometimes, and I wasn't being challenged. I wasn't learning anymore. Like
Okay.
I just had the same skills I always had, like up from iDrive. And I needed to put I needed to put things in a situation where I could struggle again. I needed to struggle a little bit again. I needed to be unsure again. Get that spark that propelled me.
John Apostle works at Handshake as an engineering manager. Handshake is an early talent platform for students to find their first job out of college. It's very ubiquitous amongst Gen Z. They know all about it. He has a passion for mentoring software engineers, developing people, and coaching them to reach their full potential. He calls himself a lifelong learner. I know this is true because I've witnessed John transform himself multiple times over many years because I've known John since middle school. We are in our 30s now, our early 30s, and boys eventually become men. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. John Apostle, welcome to the Go For It podcast.
Hey Josh, great to be here. Thank you for the intro.
So let's get into it in terms of what we're going to talk about today is
Yeah.
essentially that transition. You and I played a lot of video games growing up. Like,
Yeah.
let's talk about your why you decided to go to college, and then ultimately like why you ended up making a decision to like really start, yeah, like, your whole lifelong learner stuff. Like, why did you decide to
Yeah.
make some critical decisions at the end of your college tenure?
Yeah. So, it's really weird to think about now because it's been more than a decade. But there were some key moments in my life. So when we grew up together, Josh, I played a lot of video games with you, and that was really that was like my passion. Weirdly enough, was video games and like working on the computer for certain like random stuff, like random programming things. Um, and I kind of followed that through like early college, and it led to some situations that would not be conducive to me launching a career, getting a job, a worthwhile job, and ultimately squandering the effort that my parents put into me, the money that they put into like me going to college. Um, yeah, so like my freshman year, I really thought of college as a extension of high school, and so that meant video games, showing up to class late, not really paying attention to courses, doing that thing where I just kind of rely on innate ability, intuition to like get by in classes, you know? So that's where I was at. I was, there was this weird moment, really pivotal in my career. I'll even say in my career, even though I didn't have a career yet, where I was late to a class. It was a lecture style class, and it was a presentation day. I prepared a presentation that day. Um, I was going to be late to class for 3 minutes or something, and then as I was walking into class, I had a coin in my hand, and I decided to flip the coin to see if I would go into the class and do my presentation.
Okay, why would you do that? Why would you flip a coin? You've already prepared for the presentation. Like, why are you why are you doing that?
I honestly, I wanted an excuse not to go in. And it was the kind of thing where, like, maybe a little poetic, like, yeah, I'm going to flip this coin. It's going to decide whether I pass or fail this class, even though I've been going to this class. even though I know most of this material, um, and I have prepared this presentation, and I was like, yeah, it was this situation where like I didn't want to present necessarily, and I wanted to kind of leave it up to fate in that way. Well,
So what happened?
yeah, so I remember flipping the coin, and I don't remember if it landed heads or tails, or if fate decided I should go to class and do my presentation, or skip class like I really wanted to do. I actually don't remember what fate had decided. But I do remember that I didn't go to class,
Yeah.
and whether I agreed with fate or not, I decided not to go in, and that there was this whole thing. I stopped. I just didn't go to that class anymore. There was somebody I knew from like school before who like reached out to me, like through the school, like the campus email system, and said, "Hey, our professor wanted to talk to you. Make sure you had, basically my professor was reaching out, my friend was reaching out to say, hey, like you can fix this. There's a way out of like this situation you created for yourself."
Wow. Okay. That's very lucky. What happened?
I was too ashamed to go back. I was too ashamed
Wow.
to consider the possibility, and I just said, okay, I just failed that class, and that was my freshman year.
So
Um,
do you think
yeah.
that this was because of anxiety of either presenting or trying and not being able to deliver? Like what there had to be some emotional reason why you made that decision at that time.
Yeah, it was. I would say all of it. Like
Okay.
I was like, it was a lecture style hall, and I was scared of like talking in front of a lot of people. I definitely considered myself an introvert back then. I still kind of do consider myself introvert. Um, and I wasn't proud of the presentation I'd set up. I wasn't proud of that also, and that wasn't going to help me through it. So yeah, I was looking for excuses, grasping at straws not to do it, and ultimately I didn't do it.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that I think we all have similar experiences to something like that where fear gets the best of you. So that was
Yeah,
freshman year of college and then uh well shoot. Okay, this is something that happened more than a decade ago. We're talking about it now. So like
yeah,
what did that situation mean? Like where are we going with this?
yeah. So I it felt like, so I like I said, like college still felt like, okay, this is still, we're still playing around here, consequences don't exist really.
Right.
But when I got to like, I think my junior year, I think it was before my senior year, so I think it was my junior year, I realized that there isn't a roadmap after college, at least not with what I was doing. I wasn't trying to get into like any specific role or any specific job or anything. I had some interests, like around computers, around programming, but I didn't actually set myself up for success there. And I was letting fear take control of my life, where the default would have been, as an immigrant to the United States, falling back to blue collar work, hourly work, where I'd always be thinking about my hours, thinking about covering shifts, thinking about like my gas bill, those kind of things that I was already thinking about as a student. But I was like, do I want this to be the rest of my life? And also,
Wow.
there's this opportunity going to college that my dad really helped pay for. And I was lucky because this was around the time that the Pell Grant was really generously increased, um, by President Obama at the time. I remember that like it was a huge opportunity for me. I didn't have to live on campus at the time at that school. Like that was a requirement they eventually instituted, um, like as I like when I graduated, if I remember correctly, or like near around then. And I just dodged all of that. I was like, I had all of these opportunities and I was squandering them by not trying and not having a vision. So yeah, the first thing I really wanted to take care of was this whole fear thing that I had.
Right.
And the thing I feared most was like public speaking in general. One of the factors that led me not to go to that class and ultimately failing that class that I mentioned earlier. And so I resolved to take a speech class, and really try. I tried my hardest in that class, more than any other class I've ever taken. Yeah. So
Okay. Yeah, so you ended up in you made a decision that you allowed fear to get the best of you at one point in your college
yeah,
tenure, and then you get to junior senior year. You said, "I'm not." Wait. you said, I'm not going to allow myself to live this way. What made you make that decision? Like, what made you say, I am going to attack this by taking this public speaking course? And you tried the most out of any other class you took before.
Yeah, it is like maybe it could be something. There's not something like really big about it other than like I remember oh yeah, I remember calculating my credits at the time. Finally, I figured out how the school system worked. Like credits confused me my freshman year, honestly, and sophomore year. But finally, I figured out like when my estimated graduation date was going to be. And I realized I wasn't going to be able to make it because of how badly I'd done in my courses, my freshman and sophomore year, some of my courses, unless I took courses every semester. So, and I had to really buckle down and do that. And then like that's when I realized when I saw that estimated graduation date, and it was still like barely within the 4-year window that I wanted. And I saw the estimated graduation date and I was like, okay, I can do this. And wow, that is not too far away. Like it was 2010 at the time. And I think I graduated like fall or winter of 2012. And I was like, this is not far away at all. How am I going to do this? And so like the speech course was like the first thing that I was like decided. And then other than that, I was like, okay, the credits that I do have, what what kind of major would it kind of become? And it was communication. So I was like, okay, I can do that. I can make this work. I do like writing, so maybe I'll become a journalist or something. And I remember feeling those things and trying to set off on a path that way. So yeah.
Right. So something I observed at that time that really made an impression on me is I think something that you're probably forgetting about that time. At least this is my perception of you. We also have a mutual friend named Deepro, and what I observed between you and him is both of you guys were had girlfriends that you became very serious about at that time. I think that probably had a big effect on this. Like the way I interpreted you guys deepening your relationships with your girlfriends, eventually becoming fiancés and stuff like that. I think that probably had a big effect. Like it's like, wow, like there's this young lady that I'm very serious about. And I think that really made what I observed between you and him is like you guys really started taking life a lot more serious. Is that, am I off on
No,
that?
that's definitely fair. We're married now and we've been together for like all together, like dating and marriage and all that kind of stuff. It is our, oh man, we got married 2013. How many years is that? Is this 5? Is this our 15th
Oh,
year?
2013. So that was the year after you graduated college.
No, not 2013, 2017. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
So we've been married for 5 years, but we were dating since like uh 08, 09, something like that. So yeah, we were around this time. You're right. You're pretty perceptive about that. That was definitely a factor. I wanted to make sure that there wouldn't be something that would break us up that wasn't our own emotions and intentions. Something that she and I talked about. So my wife's name's Alice. She and I talked about was like, hey, my intention at the time was like, I really want things to be stable because I knew that statistic, like a lot of divorces end or like people break up because of, at least, especially at the time, divorce rate was, a lot of it was because of money, like not being able to provide or having like fights about money. And I never wanted that to be the case with us. I wanted us to like, if we decided we weren't going to be together anymore, I wanted it to be because of us and not because of, we're not making enough for us to actually have the life we would expect from each other with each other.
Right.
So yeah, this was like definitely a huge factor in what I decided to do. It was a huge motivating factor. I need to get myself together. I need to be the man that she would deserve, that I thought I could be.
That's fire. Okay. That's
It's
awesome.
weird to say that. I don't think I've ever said that out loud to like anybody. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, so that's cool. I feel like I get a gold star for perceiving all that. And that, we haven't spoken about this ever. It's been 10 years. So
No, you didn't know about this, like that flipping coin thing, I don't think.
yeah, holy crap. Yeah, that's intense. Like, it's like Batman, Two-Face, you always flip a coin whether you kill somebody or not.
Yeah, but he kept, like in this case, it kept flipping it until it was what he wanted. And then
yeah.
I think that is what he does. Um, but
You might, yeah, actually, yeah, I'm not sure. I
I
don't
don't
know
remember.
much.
I don't
Yeah.
read comic books, but yeah.
Well, okay. So the setup is, things did not go well freshman year. You're getting serious about your girlfriend. You're getting serious about not wanting to necessarily continue. I'm just going to be frank, a cycle of poverty in your family. I don't know if that's offensive or not, but that's just the way I'm going to call it. A cycle of poverty in regards to low wage jobs. So you
Yeah.
got lots of motivating factors. The Pell Grant, Obama, great opportunity. You got a lot of tailwinds forcing you forward. What did you do? You took that public speaking course. You said it's
Hmm.
the most you've worked hard in college.
Yeah.
Then what?
Yeah. So, yeah, I worked really hard during that class. I realized I could do this. Um, I got through a lot of like anxiety that I had speaking in front of people. Uh, like really made inroads to that. And then as I was following my communications major, I there was a point where I was in a class. It was a class with computers. I think it was like an ad copywriting class or ad design class, and I was in the back row. Um, so there's rows of computers in front of me, and I was working on this thing where like, okay, it's the inverted pyramid where you're supposed to say all of the most important information at the very top of an article. I thought maybe I would become a journalist. Definitely wanted to write. And then as I was working on my assignment in class, I remember looking up and just looking up at the rows of people in front of me and realizing, oh, I'm the only like brownish person here. And like there are a lot of people here who would probably do well in like a TV anchor spot or whatever. Like it was like the communications program that major and getting into ad copywriting and all that other kind of stuff. I was like, oh, maybe I don't fit in here. And then I was like thinking, well, what could I do? Because I'm already doing this. I want to graduate. And I was really like, so around this time, so I remember standing, I remember noticing the rows of people ahead of me. And I don't think it was at that moment, but I remember eventually thinking like, okay, what do I do that other people here don't do? Like we can all write copy, we can all like do all these kind of things. They're going to be better than me at public speaking. They're already more social and extroverted than I am. I have to catch up. But what can I do now? And the thing that I could do, I knew like from working or from like just making games and stuff before, being interested in my passion at the time, like video games and stuff, was like, oh, I can program. Um, and commercially viable programming meant at the time like web development, stuff around social media. Um, like you could build things for small businesses. There wasn't all of this uh like software as a service stuff for small businesses at the time, so they would need like custom software or whatever. And I was like, I could do that. I think I know how to do some of that stuff. I can at least make websites that people can go to using the internet. So I kind of leaned into that. um I I leaned into that. I made friends with my professors enough to like have them notice and have me show them that I could do some of these things. And then I would start doing like odd jobs for them related to like the stuff that I could do. So I don't think I told you this before, Josh, but I had three Korean professors at one point, three different professors of Korean descent,
Wow.
and like different classes. And I was like, how does like whatever. And they would talk to me like when they realized that I was like doing certain things. They were like, oh, John, you know how to do this? You know how to edit video? Well, I have this thing that I'm doing for the PGA tour. I actually need help with somebody to make these like splice things together for this DVD for the PGA Tour or whatever. And he was on there as like a Korean language consultation because there was a Korean golfer at the time, and they wanted to get the subtitles really right. So they sent him the footage, and they were trying to get him to like help with the wording and the subtitles and stuff. So I helped with the wording a little bit, like what English would resonate and work better for somebody who's a native English speaker when they're reading the subtitles for this kind of a feeling. I don't know Korean, but I know English. And the other thing was like making those like video edited slices that they would also put inside of the DVD. So I could do this, and yeah, it was a paid like gig. They gave me some money to do this stuff. It was like a couple $100s to like go to the professor's like office and like work with them on this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I kind of just kept doing those kind of things, built up some confidence to think, oh, I can just get paid for some of the stuff I do. that isn't like, that there's something in between going to school to be a lawyer or doctor and going into like work at Walmart or something. There was actually jobs in between that were accessible to me, is what I realized. So yeah, I started thinking about how I could like part-time like build websites, because that was the thing, like other than video editing, which I was kind of starting to fall out of, like that was the thing I could do. So I found some jobs doing that. That was really cool actually.
Okay. Yeah. So okay, you start. You're entering your latter years in college, and you're now actually spinning up some business opportunities with your professors at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened to the whole like public speaking thing? Where does that come back?
Oh, that was with me the whole time, because if I didn't have that, I would have been scared to even like open up to my professors about some of this stuff. Like,
Okay.
so it was this kind of thing where I was like, I felt really anxious and exposed all of the time, until I knowingly exposed myself by taking that speech class and putting myself in situations where, like, in order to pass this class, and I really wanted to pass this class, I had to make, I think I made like 5 different speeches, and I had to make them, put them on in front of class, practice them and all that kind of stuff. And that like got me in tune with my own voice and talking to people and trying to encourage them or persuade them to my line of thinking. So yeah, and then those were the kind of skills like when I was looking for those jobs, I did it like at school. There were career fairs, and in those career fairs there was these big companies like hiring, obviously, but there was also like small like mom and pop companies and businesses that were like just trying to hire college kids to do certain things. And so I went there and I like had my resume in my backpack. I'd pull it off, unzip it. I realized eventually, like, oh, maybe I should have this in my hand before I get to the table. But I'd pull it
Okay.
off, unzip
Yeah.
it, and I'd give people my resume. And I'd really try to write it so that it made it clear that I'm in this communications path, but I can write and I can also program. But leaning a lot into the programming bit, because I knew this was something my the other people in my in my major didn't have as a
Hmm.
skill.
Yep.
So I could do copywriting, I could do ad design, but I can also program on your website. They only could do those things. I mean, they could probably do other things, but like they couldn't do something that was as tangible as that for certain businesses at the time.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, I'm aware that as you were kind of working through like this confidence building stuff, that you developed some sort of persona. Where at what point did you start incorporating that into your, I guess,
Right.
your life?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's a little corny to say, but I in college, uh, as I was like coming, like as I was preparing for speeches in my speech class, and as I was like going as difficult uh classes that were difficult for me, not because of the academics, but because of like having to speak and present my ideas or something, I created this persona that I called Business John. And Business John was more type A personality, very sure of himself, talked louder just by default.
Okay.
There were things about like I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put on this persona whenever I walk out in front of a group of people to say something, like a larger group of people. And it was useful. It really helped me get through those hard speeches and stuff. And so I started bringing it with me into like, oh, I'm going to this career fair looking for like more opportunities to write code and build websites. Well, I'm going to bring Business John along and have him talk to the people instead of me. So you know, when I unzipped my backpack and I pulled stuff out, I'd be talking the whole time, and I'd show them my resume, and I'd actually be pretty emphatic about like, okay, I'm interested in this. These are the things I can do, rather than waiting for them to ask me or talk to me, like, which is what I would usually do. My normal speed was to like kind of wait for somebody to say something and then answer them. So like Business Sean didn't do that. He would just kind of like try to steer the conversation
Right,
into a certain point he wanted it to
right.
go. So that's what I did, and it was really useful. Like, and it kind of like became a part of me throughout my career, but definitely in the early stages, I really thought of it as like, here's me at home, here's John, and then here's Business John. And Business John goes to work, Business John goes to meetings, Business John meets with the boss, Business John gets jobs and stuff like that. But like like over time, that the separation between those two personalities really like went away, and it was just my personality was a bit of both of them, and that's kind of what I encompass now, and I recognize that now, and yeah, I can't tell you when exactly like they came together, but yeah, I definitely like feel more complete now. But that's what I had to do at the time. I felt like I really had to like put on this persona in order to survive and have a stable financial situation to, like to marry my wife and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So at this point, we're senior year. You're doing odd jobs for your professors. You take this public speaking course. You've now, at this point, developed a persona which is good at that time because you can like kind of just
Yeah.
develop this avatar for yourself because
Yeah.
you're not. It's not necessarily you're taking risk as John Apostle. Business John is taking all the risk.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
what it
that's
felt
really
like.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it was my Iron Man suit. Like
Right. Right.
I
Right.
still was still in there, like making certain decisions, but I didn't feel, like I said before, I felt exposed. I just felt overexposed. And so I never felt, I didn't feel exposed as Business John. It just felt like, oh no, this is what happens. This is how he does things. And this is how I do things. Um, so yeah. So like, yeah, getting into my immediate career. So at the career fair, I don't think I told you this before either. So this was actually like, this is a weird situation. I remember, so I eventually, like, I took those odd jobs. In my senior year, I was like, I need to start a career. Let me get an internship. And I remember going to the career fair and gave my resume to somebody at a desk. Them like looking it over, circled things they liked or whatever, and they said they were going to give me a call back. And then I went to another table. Same kind of deal. Resume to them, looked at it and said, yeah, I'm going to give you a call back or whatever. And then by like the next day, I realized I landed two internships at the same time.
Whoa.
Did I ever tell
Okay.
you this?
No.
This is such a weird situation. I had two internships at the same time, and Business John was like, "All right, here's some opportunity. I can
Right.
make this work. I can make this work." Because I was like, I don't know which one's actually going to be the thing that could become my career or like
Hmm.
has the most opportunity. One of them was for a company that was out of like was in the same building as a TV station, WJCT, in Jacksonville. But it was a marketing advertising company, and they hired college kids. The guy had a nice suit on, like it was well put together. Business John would thrive there, is what I thought. Oh, come
Sure.
on, they're making money. They got clients. They got all this stuff going on. The other one was like, hey, there's this our former boss, Alejandro Benavides, and he was like, he was soft spoken. He was talking to me about like, okay, yeah, we can. There's some stuff where they could use some help, like working with their clients, and I don't remember exactly what it is. It just seemed really jack of all trades to me. I was like, okay, that's cool. I could do that. And remember I had to figure out my schedule such that I could go to both at the same time, and I would still be going to school. Yeah, I would
Whoa.
also be going to school. It worked out for the first couple weeks. Like I was able to go to one, I was able to go to the other one. I was pretty busy. I was
Yeah.
extremely busy. And then there was this moment at the more business oriented internship where I realized, oh, this is it for me. This is not the right place.
Oh, wait. So what happened?
Yeah. So I didn't even like, I skipped beyond like the interview at that company. But the at this company, the one that I said wasn't for me, I realized they were like more like bullies, and they made examples of people out with other people. So they
Ooh.
did a round table interview. And I'd never in my entire career up to that point or since, so never had this ever happen to me before and again, have an interview in a round table format where everybody around the table was being interviewed at the same time. So we're
Oh.
competing we don't know how many positions to be an intern here,
Yeah. Yeah.
and these aren't paid internships. This was just being an intern there. I wish it was paid. But I remember like we were going around the table, and there's some context here that's missing for people, but uh, I I was working on a website that I built at the time, Game Elitist, and this was a video game like opinion website. I had writers for there. We were all just doing it for the love of writing about video games and all that kind of stuff. And as a part of developing that website, I had a Twitter, I had a Facebook, and I had a decent following for the time. I think we had around 1,000 followers on Twitter, which was good for back then, and especially good for like something that I'm not even really that I wasn't sure what was going to happen with.
Yeah.
So we were going around that table during that interview, and they were asking people how many Twitter followers they had.
Oh my gosh, that's intense.
And it was so weird because I was thinking at the time, what is this?
Yeah.
And so like I was near the middle. So they're asking people, oh, I have like 5 followers. Oh, me and my friends use this. So I have like 20, 30, something like that. Somebody else was like, I don't use Twitter. Another person was like, I don't use Twitter. And every time like they were answering, the big boss at the head of the table was like kind of like, oh, okay, like what's your plan to grow that? Why, like
Oh.
he was really being serious about like these college kids with Twitter. And this was back in like 2010, 2011, I don't know, something like that. And like it wasn't like a
Yeah,
this
that's
wasn't a
pretty
big deal.
early, Twitter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like come on, like this is not a big deal. But he was really trying to get and eventually got to me, and he asked me, and I was like, I don't want to say that I don't like my personal Twitter was like I didn't have anybody because I didn't really use it. But my website Twitter for Game Elitist had 1,000 followers. So I said, oh, I have 1,000 followers. And that really interested this guy. And then he went down the table again. But every time after that, no matter what answer anybody gave, he would just be like, like, I don't know, not as much as 1,000 though, it seems like, that
Good
kind of,
Lord.
and like, it was so weird. It
Yeah,
didn't
that's
feel
very
good.
strange.
It didn't feel good at all. Interview continued, a one-on-one interview with them. And then they were trying to, it was a really bad interview. Like he was really trying to make it seem like I wasn't worth much, but like he
Oh.
was deigning to offer me a free internship because he was like asking, so what are your skills? What can you do? Whatever. And I was talking like, I can make websites, I can do this. And he was like, well, I got people who can make websites. Well, I got people who can design ads. I got people. Everything I said, he said he already had people to do that. And then he was like, but what are you going to like? What do you bring to the table? And I was like, I could do that too. Maybe cheaper. And I was like, I really don't know. Like business John was flummoxed. He'd never
Oh
encountered
no,
another
yeah, yeah,
person
yeah.
doing this.
Yeah.
So like yeah, but like I took that internship 2 weeks in. 2 weeks into that internship, when I was doing both internships at the same time, I called into this internship because I realized I don't want to do this because like it's not worth it. Oh, yeah, there was a moment where I
But so
there
what
happened
happened in that 2 weeks that made you confirm?
that's right. The work
Oh, the
was
work.
not, it made no sense. Like so they were this company was acting as like a social media agency for other companies, like local and regional companies in the area. Like I think like Peterbrook Chocolate
Okay.
Tier. I don't know if they're still around in Jacksonville area, but
Yeah,
yeah.
they are. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So like and it was like, so it was my job to write Facebook posts for that business,
Okay.
one per day, basically, like one. And I would schedule them ahead of time and be like da 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 da. And as I was writing it, it was so dumb because I was like, what do I write about scheduled ahead of time based on a calendar like date? I was like, what national like thing of the year is it this time? Oh, it's National Pizza Day. It's national. So that's what I did. I just like made so that I just like, oh, it's National Pizza Day. It's national, and I tried to tie it into chocolate or something. I don't know. Um,
Pizza?
it made no sense. But then I asked my supervisor at the time, like, hey, how much are we charging for this service? Like charging these companies. And he gave me a number. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember he gave me that number. And then I calculated how much effort it was taking me to write these, even though I wasn't taking too much time. And I was thinking, like, we're losing money on this. You're never going to pay anybody to do this, I don't think. Like, why don't you charge more? Like, in that kind of thing is what I was
But
saying
you were an
to my
unpaid
supervisor.
intern, weren't you?
Yeah, I was an unpaid intern. But I was like, when I realized it's like, you will never pay anyone for this.
Oh, it was too
Like, it will
cheap.
never be at a point where you will pay somebody to do this.
Wow.
And it was around that time when I realized, oh, this is like they're just using college interns, like to just do all this work, unpaid interns, and all that kind of stuff. A friend of mine, actually, who was also interning there at the time, uh, just left as well, like more recently. And I talked with them about this. I don't remember our conversation exactly, but it led to me not wanting to continue this internship because it just didn't have legs. Now, as that
Okay.
was happening, the other internship with Alex Benavides, I was actually doing work that was worth something. Like the clients liked the work, they cared about the work, and I was learning along the way. So I was like, okay, let me put all my eggs in that basket now that I've tried both. Um, yeah, so when I called into my supervisor, I told him, hey, I'm not coming in today or ever again.
Did you say
Like,
that? You said or ever again?
I don't remember my words exactly, but I made it clear. I first said that like I'm not coming in today. Then I made it clear I wasn't coming back ever. And then I remember him telling me, "Yeah, I don't blame you." That was
Wow.
his first response, and then I was like, "Okay, cool. I made the right choice."
Wow. Okay, well, dang. Nice.
Yeah. So that was a bullet dodged.
For sure. Yeah, that sounds intense. Yeah, so they wanted people with a bunch of social media experience. They weren't paying them, and then like the business numbers didn't also make sense. Yeah, so none
It
of it.
didn't make
Yeah.
sense. Like they weren't really gonna make money from the social media side. I remember like thinking about like this is not ever gonna make you money if you keep prices this low.
Wow.
And maybe that's why they had all those clients. But like
Yeah.
it didn't make sense.
Yep. Yep. Okay. All right. So you're at iDrive Marketing. Business John
Oh yeah,
put you in a
that
tough
was the
spot.
internship, and I eventually got that as a. Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's it. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So that the other company was iDrive Marketing. I There's a lot of skills I picked up there. I learned HTML, which is like the backbone of web development of the internet, really. Um, and I learned CSS to make websites like or I learned more of that stuff. I had a website at the time. I learned even more of that stuff to make websites like actually fit a design. And then I got to use some of my ad design skills in certain ways. I remember there was a moment where I was really impressed by Alex because we were in a client meeting. And this led to me like really growing respect for him. We were in a client meeting and the client was saying how like the ad image, the stock photo image we had chosen for their ad, there's a woman in a bikini and she was too revealing. Like it was too revealing bikini for their brand. And
Okay.
it wasn't that bad, but like for them, like that was their issue. And Alex at the time he pulled out his laptop, popped open Photoshop, immediately got to work, and he used the tool I remember using in school before where you can like basically like airbrush an area uh of the image from another area of the image. It was like a brush mirroring thing. I forgot. I don't remember what it's called. It's been a while. But he added more clothing onto her,
Yeah, yeah,
and it
yeah,
looked
yeah, yeah.
perfect. And I was like, "Oh man, this guy's good. Like I could learn how to actually do." I knew how to do that from class, but I'd never applied it before. Like,
I
oh
see.
okay,
Yeah.
and it really made sense. Like I was learning so much at this job, and yeah, so I was really like coming into my own at the time, like growing my technical skills at least. That was really fun. Yeah.
Right. Well, okay. So I just want to hear more about the usage of the persona. You're
Yeah.
increasing. So you're at this point. You've graduated college. You're out a year. You're working at iDrive Marketing at the time. And how are you continuing to work on your confidence? All stemming from that experience back from freshman year
Yeah.
of college.
Yeah. So there, I will say, like, definitely working with Alex, I was more building up my technical skills at the time, which I was really happy to do. Um, when it came to the point, like, this is where Business John kind of came in, was like, well, there was client meetings. I was never really responsible for any of those. Honestly, it was there sometimes to take notes for myself down the line when I was going to build a website or something. But there was this like pivotal point for me where I was like, oh, I could do this. This could be my job. I can do a good job here and all that kind of stuff. And you and I eventually we were working together. So I'm skipping like some time here, but like this to me was a very like it was a good period of my life where I was like, yeah, this is what I could do. Um and then like I was really like thinking, hey, there's something I could do more maybe, but I'm okay with this. And it was around the time that I was wondering, like, do I want to keep working here? Do I want to keep working at this business? Um, because there was also like being close to the business itself. This is a small company with like 5, 6 people or so. I think we maxed out at 6 maybe at some point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But like I just kind of like I was unsure if we would be stable enough to meet my goal, um and feel good like marrying my wife eventually.
I have an anecdote because there was an exact moment that happened in the business. I don't know if you remember that, but I do.
Oh yeah, please go ahead.
All right. So a little bit of setup. I was at college in University of Florida. I was studying mechanical engineering, and John hooked me up where I knew that I wanted to be a software developer and I didn't want to be a mechanical engineer. And John got me the job at iDrive Marketing also. So I graduated college and I started building websites. So John and I were working together, and John was pretty much like my mentor on the job, which is awesome. Because he was my friend and he was also like showing me stuff. So it got to a point where John had bought a car from Carvana.com. It
Oh
was a red
yeah,
car.
I
He
still have
had
that
just
car.
bought the car. Oh, you do? Okay. Dude, that
Yeah,
was
it's
like
paid off.
forever ago. Okay.
It's paid off. What? Yeah.
Okay, it makes sense. Yeah, okay. Um, yeah, so John had just bought this car 3 weeks ago. Relative to what I'm talking about, there was a moment when iDrive was unable to make payroll a certain week. So John
Oh
had literally just
man.
taken on more financial risk,
Oh,
and
that's
then
right.
that's
That's
exactly
right.
what happened. And then
Okay.
like within 2 or 3 weeks of that moment, you had another job because you were just like, I'm good. Like
Oh
that's
man.
exactly what happened.
I forgot that I got the car
Yep.
at that same
And
time.
they missed
Like,
payroll.
oh
They eventually paid
man.
us, by the way, but like, you know, this is tough. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that was real. That is real. Thank you for bringing that up because I do remember that like we did have like there was definitely that that moment where that stuff happened, but I forgot that I bought the car around then,
yeah,
honestly,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because I went to Atlanta to get that car. Yeah, I still have the car.
That's legit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. That would have really, yeah. I needed money. I needed to make sure that like it was stable. And what the money that we made there was like really good for you know, new job, fresh out of college, all that kind of stuff. It was really, really good. And I was learning so much. And yeah, working with Josh was amazing. It was a dream. We were having a lot of fun.
Oh, we had so
Um,
much fun. Yeah.
yeah, at the office
And we
in
were getting a
general.
lot done too. Yeah, it was fun. It was great
Yeah,
all
yeah,
around.
yeah. We were. And yeah, I started interviewing around, and that was Business John doing those interviews, like all those interviews. And that was like the first time that I was like, I have skills, I have worth, and I have Business John, and I have this ability and this conscious ability to actually like present myself. And I used it. And I went on a bunch of interviews and I learned about like what it was like to sell myself like even further, not just out of college, but with work experience, with skills. And yeah, I eventually got an offer from at the time the Everbank, which was acquired by TIAA Bank a while ago, and yeah, they were the name. They had the naming rights to the Jacksonville Jaguar Stadium. I remember I was really like, oh yeah, this is like I've made it because of that because I
Yeah,
work at
yeah,
the
yeah.
company that has that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that was Business John, like who was really confident, like going into those interviews. And then the regular John that I don't give a name to, is just me, was the one who had all the technical skill, who could actually like pass the technical portions of interviews, like take home tests. Like they made, I remember the interview for Everbank, they basically said, here's our website, here's the front page, it's open on the internet, make that website, just make it the front page, just make it from scratch, don't use anything else, just make it from scratch. And so I made it from scratch.
That's
Like I
awesome.
didn't like use anything they had. I made it from scratch. And then I applied a lot of performance tweaks to it to make it even faster and faster. It didn't lead anywhere, but like the CSS, the styles, everything was perfect. And it was also a little bit faster than their website. and I turned that in as a part of my interview for Everbank. And I remember the hiring manager at the time, John, he was impressed that I made it like one for one, and that it was fast, and that he couldn't read it because I minified and gzipped the codes, so it was really fast and
Yep.
really small. And he was expecting to view source, read the whole thing, and just be like, "Oh, okay." But then he just quit because he's like realized, "Oh, okay, you did that, so I'm not going to even deal." Because he was trying to look at the code for the JavaScript as well, see how I did the menus and stuff, but he just decided not to because I did that, and then
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
job. Yeah, so
Yep. Yep.
yeah, it's a good time. But yeah, Business John was definitely an important part of those interviews. Yeah, I needed that because it was really scary. Like trying to when you're coming out of college, it felt like you're competing with other college kids,
Okay.
and you
Right.
all don't have experience. Maybe some people have some internships. They have like something on their like CV, like saying they were uh, active in some clubs or something, right? But it felt like an almost level playing field, except for who you know, and who you ran into. But then like interviewing for like Everbank and for some other companies local at the time, I was competing with people who already had like tenure in their career, not just working at like this small 5-person company, but like
Right.
larger companies who are doing these things, who learned from school or from training programs professionally how to do this work that I was doing, that I picked up on the fly based on what our clients' needs were at iDrive. So it was really scary.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just another anecdote. It was scary for me because John was the technical lead on all of our projects. And like, I literally had a conversation with John. It's like, John, I don't know what to do. Like, you're leaving, and now it's only me now, and I have to run the lead on all these projects. And you were very nice to me at the time. You said, Josh, you're ready. Like, you can do it. And I didn't know, like, even at that time, I was like, I don't know if he's just telling me this or not. But yeah, that was definitely a major growth moment in my life because we
Yeah.
were starting this really big project. Like, I was inheriting a project from you where we were building this bridge between uh there was a trucking dispatch
Oh, that
company.
one.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
That was
yeah,
fun. I remember
yeah.
the
So you
prototyping for
built
that was
most
so
of
fun.
it, but it was like, yeah, we had like to talk to a database so we weren't just building websites, we were also building software on, like, it was custom websites, it was custom software stuff.
Yeah, really cool
Yeah,
stuff.
it was a complicated architecture, and like literally, you're like, "Oh, I'm going to Everbank," and I'm just like, "Okay." So that was a big moment for me in regards to like just navigating uncertainty. I had no idea what the heck I wasn't gonna be able to contact John as freely, and
Yeah,
I had to make it happen, and so that was
and you
big.
did.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
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 I
yeah,
did.
yeah. It was honestly like I remember feeling at the time like um I was worried about that, like worried like how's this gonna work for Josh and all that kind of stuff. But I also like remember from working with Josh and just growing up with him and stuff, like I know he can do this. Like maybe it'll take a little bit of time and effort, but he's been doing that this whole time. Like he has his mechanical engineering degree. He had his plan, like you had your plan. I'm saying it like you're not here. You had your plan to like learn things and follow through on your goals. Um, and this was just, to me, it was like more of the same, except there was a little bit like it was a little bit bigger company than usual that we work with. It was a little bit more stuff going on with the database. It was just a little bit more than before. So like I and I remember there was things that you were bringing back from like whenever you're doing your meetups from local with local people, that you were bringing back ideas and thoughts that were challenging preconceived notions that I had. And I had this feeling and idea like, oh, okay, I'm pretty sure that he'll be able to like swim from here. I didn't even think it was a sink or swim. I thought I knew he was going to swim, kind of thing, so yeah, it wasn't like stressful for me to think about. I was like, oh no, what's going to happen to Josh? I was like, oh no, he's gonna take this on, and they're gonna work it out because that's how it works. That's how he's done this before. Um, so I wasn't worried, honestly. I was more like, how is Josh gonna feel about me just not being working with him in general? that was my thing I was worried about. I was like, does he think that I don't want to work with him? That's why I'm doing this, that kind of stuff. That was the thing I was going through my head. I
Okay.
invited you over to my apartment. We talked about this.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yep, that's right. Yeah, well, you told me what was going to happen before it was going to happen, which was really nice.
yeah.
Yeah. You're like, hey, I'm going to quit. I was like, what? No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what
Wow.
they said, by the way? I must have told you this. When I told them, I gave them my 2 weeks, when I was gonna quit, I told them that, or no, they said uh like Josh too. And I said, no. Like they were really worried that you were gonna leave
Oh,
him
yeah, yeah, yeah.
too.
Because we were friends. Yeah, and you brought me in. Oh, that makes
Like, no.
sense. Wow.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it worked out. Yeah, in regards to my perception, I knew why. That's the reason why I never like passed judgment on you is because I knew why. You had bought that car. They had literally missed payroll, and John's not about that. I'm good. Like I'm out. Like I was shocked by how fast it happened, and then like I knew that I was like all the responsibilities would fall to me. And so yeah, it all worked out. So yeah, I think that's actually something that I kind of want to say to if anybody who's listening to this that's younger. Like I'd say the number one thing that I would say to myself if I could talk to myself in college is to like relax and that everything's gonna be okay. Like because there's just so much uncertainty at that time. Sort of like with John, like oh man, like I got to develop this persona. Like I'm
hmm.
a college graduate. I don't know if it's the first college graduate in your family. Like I'm representing like where my family and I'm trying to marry this girl and like how am I going to make this happen? They're not paying payroll now. Like
Yeah.
and then you went to Everbank and then that was freaking that was a great experience for you. But I guess like I think I don't know if you have something to say with respect to this is
Yeah.
like I would just like to say to young people like it's very likely that it's going to be okay.
Yeah. I think so. I'm generally a positive person, and I think that positivity um has helped me take risks as I've absorbed business John into my overall like personality. Us. And yeah, so I do believe in that. It comes with work for sure. And it comes with, this search for growth. And the only way you can find growth and experience growth is if you put yourself or you are put into uncomfortable situations. So I've been put into uncomfortable situations, some of the ones I mentioned here today, but some of the things that I've done, I also like decided to put myself into. Like, so Everbank was great, for instance. Like, and that could have been a career like that could have been the last one, to be honest. There's people who worked there who'd been there for decades, and there was definitely like in corporate banking there is this like there's a real ladder that you can climb, and if you do well, and you're positioned to do well as long as like you understand how to do your work, then you can do pretty well. Like you can do pretty well there. But I popped out of that as well to look for other opportunities in another state because I realized that I was being too comfortable in Florida, in Jacksonville, around my family, around the same friends I've had this whole time. And though I've been to other countries, like I was born in the Philippines, moved to Canada, moved to the United States. By the time I developed myself in the United States as a working adult, I was coming fast upon a time where I realized like, hey, this could just be it, and I could never be anywhere else. I could never try anything else, and that was something where I kind of realized I need to make myself uncomfortable again
Okay.
and remove myself from some of these comforts that I have now,
Wait,
which is
so why?
literally
Like, I
meditation.
think a lot of people they chase comfort. I think this is, a big reason why we have an obesity problem in the United States, and
Yeah.
well, I guess we'll just leave it at that. What made you make the decision that you must become uncomfortable? Because I think a lot of people are chasing comfort.
Well, when you're fortunate enough to not have to worry about your car payments, fortunate enough not have to worry about like payroll or any of those kind of things. One of the and this is why I think it's really important uh, to build up young people and give them some of these opportunities in general and make sure that we're hiring entry level positions, because I think once somebody is able to experience some of those things, eventually you run into a point where this could be what you do, but you might get bored, or what I really realized was like I wasn't learning anymore. I learned a lot at iDrive by circumstance because we had all these clients and all these different needs, all very unique.
Yep.
When I got to Everbank, I had one client, this company. The circumstance was I was supporting a lot of designers, which was fun, but I worked with one other software developer and I had some IT people I worked with sometimes, and I wasn't being challenged. I wasn't learning anymore. Like
Okay.
I just had the same skills I always had, like up from iDrive. And I needed to put I needed to put things in a situation where I could struggle again. I needed to struggle a little bit again. I needed to be unsure again, get that spark that propelled me to where I was at that first point. Um, and also like I was kind of scared of like, hey, if I stay here this whole time, I'll only have the perspective I have now, and I won't like have life experience in like another area, another state, another place, that kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So it seems like maybe it's profound now, but really at the time I was just like, yeah, I know the same stuff this year and you last year. That's really what it came down to. Like, I just know the same stuff. And that kind of sucks, like I just
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to
yeah.
know more. I want to be better. And I'm not learning from these guys.
Wow.
I'm teaching them. And I don't want that to always be my life, right? I would like to learn from somebody. So,
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting because I think from my perspective, I know very little of your life at Everbank. I know more about your life thereafter, when you went to
yeah,
own local and yeah, but like yeah, the Everbank period of your life I know very little about because I guess
there's not much to say.
yeah. I mean, I knew you. Yeah, there was a point early there, like like you were learning new technologies within like the JavaScript tech stack and stuff. I don't necessarily want to get too technical, but
Okay.
you definitely developed some. Like you were an innovator at Everbank. That was clear to me because like you were just developing whole new techniques. But I think at some point, like you had developed those new techniques, and that's what everybody was doing, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, I had to be the one to like start some of those things, and then I would teach people how to use those things. But I never had that opposite experience of somebody teaching me something that they had
Right,
there.
right, right.
So it was really like like self-driven development, which has been like a lot of my life anyways. But I just wanted to be exposed to more ideas and thought patterns, not just like by watching conferences online, by reading blogs and all that kind of stuff, but I wanted to have that at work.
Right,
I wanted to
right.
be around the water cooler talking with other software engineers. And the reason why, like whenever I was looking for that next job and I moved to Austin, Texas, I specifically wanted to find a job that was not in my state because I wanted to be uncomfortable in that way and I wanted to learn and grow up even more because I didn't feel grown up yet when I
Because
was
you were
looking
in
at.
the you were in the city with which you grew up as a child.
Yeah, so I didn't feel different
Yeah.
really. Like I felt like I was still in that post college era this whole time. So I wanted that like the difference location. But the other part was like I needed to be surrounded by software developers, software engineers, and they had to be smarter than me. Like I like during the interviews when I was interviewing I got flown out to Cleveland to interview. Actually, I must have told you this. Like I ran into Depro on the flight back home.
I must have forgot because that is so funny to me. You probably told
Yes,
me that. Yeah.
I flew to Cleveland. It's the first time I'd ever been flown out by a company for anything. Like they flew me out. They paid for my room and board. They paid for food, and then I had an interview. Bombed the interview.
Wow.
Bombed the interview. But I learned about like how interviews work better, like software engineering in particular. Because
Yeah, yeah,
before that,
yeah.
I didn't have a lot of the technical ability that they were looking for, and I couldn't prove it. I'm intuitive, but I couldn't prove some of the things they wanted me to have at the time.
Right.
Um, and then yeah, on the flight back home after bombing the interview, I remember like sitting and then I heard Deepro call my name as he's walking down the aisle on the plane. I was like, he was like, John? I was like, Deepro? I know this is kind of like just inside between me and Josh pretty much, but like that was wild because I remember the times thinking like, oh, I can't tell him what I'm here for because somehow it's going to get back to my boss, even though he's like ultimately super far removed from my work life or
Yeah.
whatever. So, but that was a fun treat. And then I
Just for some
interviewed at other
context,
places.
yeah, I just want to give the because this
Yeah,
is
go
for
for
the
it.
internet at large. D-Pro is our mutual friend. I've known John since middle school. D-Pro was also our friend in middle school, and also when we were playing a lot of video games growing up, D-Pro was a
Yeah.
big part of that. It was John, D-Pro, and me playing video games together. So that's why you've heard his name come up a few times in this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, but interviewed at a lot of places that had a higher caliber for software engineering. That was the time where like I
Yep.
was looking for engineering positions. And yeah, there were so many places that I didn't do well in a lot of interviews. I did well in some, but ultimately they moved on with other people in a very nice way. Um, but yeah, like it was yeah, it was what I was looking for, was like those kind of questions, those kind of challenges that I had never
Yeah.
experienced up to that point. Um, yeah, so that propelled the era of growth that came afterwards there, and it
Okay.
was
Yeah.
around
So
that. Yeah,
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Well, I guess Everbank became comfortable. You're working at a bank. That's really important to recognize.
Yeah,
It's like it's just not. I mean, Everbank in general was kind of innovative because it was like one of the. Well, I
yeah,
don't know if it was one of like it was a bank that had no actual physical locations. It was kind of like innovative
yeah.
in that way, but at the end of the day, it was a bank, and you had kind of stagnated in regards to your growth. You wanted to get out of your hometown to make yourself uncomfortable, and I think that's probably the source of your success is that your ability to recognize that there's like I've stagnated. I need to be better. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to put myself in a position to be better. That's what I'm hearing is the common theme
Yep,
here.
yep, yep, yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, because like when I landed the job in Austin, Texas, um, it was with specifically I was going to be working with like 30, 40 software engineers at the time, the most I've ever worked with at that time, and it was like crazy for me because they were so smart. I could tell
Yeah,
from the
yeah, yeah,
interviews.
yeah.
And then when I started work and I was talking to them, they were talking about concepts and ideas I'd never heard of, I'd never experienced. I'm trying to think of some like idempotency, like the purity of functions. They were talking about how to structure relational databases like in a proper way, a performant way to scale. Observability. These were all these ideas that I had just never come across because they didn't matter for the stuff that I was doing up to that point.
Right,
Even at the
right.
bank, they just didn't. Maybe they mattered to someone somewhere, but they never mattered to me. And it should have probably mattered to me, but I wasn't trained for it to matter to me. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was great because I was getting people asking me for my opinion the entire time I worked at that first job there in Austin. And I remember being like, oh man, are they going to find out that I don't know this? I was
Oh, so
so
now we get to get into
scared.
imposter syndrome. This is good.
Yeah, it was hard, honestly. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was
Okay.
worth it.
So I mean, how did you so now you're in a whole new state. You're in Austin, Texas. You're not on local, you're at a startup. You went from a small company like iDrive Marketing to a giant bank. Not a
Yeah,
giant bank, but a medium-sized bank. And now you're in Texas and you're working at like a standard Silicon Valley, like fun, even though it's not Silicon Valley, but a funded startup, like a
it
classic.
was a Y Combinator startup.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. It was like that and trying to be like that,
Right,
if
right.
that makes
Okay.
sense. There were parties that I was confused we were throwing. Like, who are all these people? They don't work here. Why are we having a party?
Right.
There was plenty of those startup week and all that kind of stuff where people would just go between startups in the Austin area and drink beer and stuff. I'd be like, I don't know anybody here, but I came because this is my company and I'm so confused what's happening. There was all that kind of stuff happening. Yeah, it was a wild ride, a crazy experience. Um, and I learned what I wanted after that, like what I really wanted after that, which was not necessarily that.
Okay, yeah, all right. So so I what's interesting that I'm hearing from you is in my own life, I've always kind of been not always,
Yeah.
but most of my career has been being a big fish in a small pond. So
Mm-hmm.
I still live in Jacksonville. I have a very strong
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
desire to move to in Atlanta or in Austin, Texas, or something like that because I do kind of desire that.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been in a big pond, so now you're operating in a big pond with a lot of smart people.
Yeah.
Um, like because you were the man at Everbank,
I
you were the
was,
man at iDrive Marketing.
yeah, I felt really secure in
Right.
my ability. and the challenges were not far beyond my security, like, and my
Right.
abilities. They were
Right.
never far beyond. They could be beyond, but I'd grow up to beat them. So it felt good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So now you're at Own Local, right? Isn't that what it was?
Yeah, it was own local. Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah. So you kind of
advertising.
like seeing the level of talent that is actually out there because you're at a like a giant hub, startup hub. So now
Yeah.
what? Like, where's business, John? Um, you're now in this new city. What? Take us there.
Yeah, I honestly had to have Business John on like all the time when I was downtown.
Wow.
And I worked downtown. We worked in this office that was also so Capital Factory in Austin, Texas, which was like it was a hotel, and half it was a hotel, half of the building was like floors of like startups and stuff. And we were at the 16th floor, glass elevator, huge atrium. The atrium went from the first floor to the top floor. Like, it was insane. Huge waste of space, personally, my opinion. I live
Yeah.
here. Don't mean to offend, but I think it's a huge waste of space. Like, they could have so many more hotel rooms or whatever. But yeah, like, very beautiful building though. I was there and I was like, I always had to be like kind of on. I always had to be like smart. I always had to be put together as far as like being able to speak and all that kind of stuff. Because also I didn't have any friends yet. I needed to
Mm,
develop like friendships. I didn't have them yet, and so I didn't know how to do that without like familiarity and comfort from before. But
right.
I worked with some smart people, so naturally became friends with some of those people. But through business, John. And this was around the time where I
Yeah.
just kind of realized that, like, at with the ups and downs of working at a startup like that, that like, oh, I don't think I can draw the distinction anymore between business and just John. I think that was when I like kind of left behind a lot of the like anxiety by default feelings that I had growing up, and like coming up from where I was going to school, college, and all that kind of stuff, where I was just anxious. Now looking back, I can say it was anxiety, just general anxiety. But yeah, like, if I was business John all the time, like,
I am
there,
business, John.
yeah, like,
Oh, I
no,
don't know. Wait, what were you
no,
gonna
no,
say?
no. This is I am just John. Like, this is how I am, and like, oh, I actually feel pretty comfortable, and I feel pretty smart talking about these technical things, and being able to speak eloquently to my colleagues about these things without feeling like, oh, they're going to judge me. You'd still have those imposter syndrome feelings, they're going to judge me, but it was reinforced by times where I had great ideas and contributions that were impressing people at the time, who I
Right.
really respected, who were much smarter than me, I thought. um and were smarter and still are smarter than me. So like, it was kind of freeing to like realize that, oh, I've changed, if that makes sense. Like,
Wow.
I've changed from who I was before, where I was just like, just worried by default and just like scared by default.
So John was the man at iDrive. John was the man at Everbank. He got comfortable, and now this own local thing, because you're in a city without friends, you're on a team where a lot of people were either smarter or more talented than you, and you had
Mhm.
to like make it happen. You were leaning on business Johns all the time. Like
All
you
the
were just
time, just
always
all the time.
right.
Yeah.
So the mask like became you because of the difficulty of that experience. And so that's so cool. Wow, what a transformation. So you're at own local at this point. Business John kind of merges into your personality because of like you just had to reach the next level.
Yeah.
You had to work hard to get there. So now what? Okay, you're at own local, and then like they had issues, right? Like I know you had some frustrations at that company, and
Oh
then
yeah, I mean, I think they're not any different from any other like regular frustrations at any company, where like the
okay,
work you're doing isn't the work that you thought it was going to be. Like, things are changing along the way, and you're like, oh, I thought we're going to build this, we're building that instead. We thought we are going to do this, we're doing that instead. There were some layoffs, which I'd never experienced before. Was like being at a company when layoffs occur and seeing how that affects the morale
oh
of the
man,
company.
just shook everybody.
Oh yeah,
looking over their shoulder.
it was an earthquake. And I was like, oh man. And maybe this is actually pretty similar to what happened with like iDrive and that was like, oh, is this gonna be it? Is this gonna be safe? You know, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. Because this was a
yeah,
startup. So yeah, I was looking for eventually I needed to find some more stability again. So then I was looking for that comfort again. Like, all right, this is really exciting, guys. Like, this is cool. Well, let's go back and like let's just make
right,
sure we got we can pay for things again.
right, right.
Um, yeah, actually, I think I may have around that time working at Own Local. I think I that's when I proposed to Alice. Went to Atlanta actually, and I proposed to her there. Um, and so it was real. I needed that stability again, and then
Right.
layoffs happened. Yeah, so I guess that kind of repeated itself. That kind of same theme of like, hey, it's a big life change here, or like financial like burdens happening, and then oh, okay, there's also like less stability at the company you're currently at. So that prompted me to look again, and I was looking for like a safe company. That was literally what I was thinking. Like, I need somewhere safe, a safe startup because I know what startups are like now, and they're kind of fun. So I still wanted that.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine from Own Local got a job somewhere and put in a really good word for me at this company, the Zebra, and and so I went in for interviews. I was really impressed with the startup trappings that the Zebra had at the time. At the time, they
Startup
were
trappings. What is that?
yeah, like they had the penthouse suite.
Oh, yeah, like the ping
They
pong tables and all that stuff.
yeah, they had all that stuff.
Oh,
So it was like
yeah. So I've been to your office, that office, and like they had you walk in, there's like baristas and stuff, like
yeah,
serving you coffee. Yeah, it's straight up like
they had that stuff
yeah,
that
yeah,
it
yeah.
was like an upgraded version of what I had before at On Local. So that
I
was
see.
very like tantalizing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it still felt safe. I had a friend who worked there who really liked it. I when I interviewed, I could do the work. I was like, yeah, I could do this. And there were still smart people there. So I was like, okay, cool, this could work.
Yeah.
There were some things I didn't like, certain technologies that I was like, I don't know. Certain like things we were using hip chat for
Oh,
like
wow. Okay.
talking like Atlassian hip chat, which I think has since been retired. And we eventually moved to Slack there. But yeah, the Zebra. I was at the Zebra for 4 years, and that was a very good run. Like I learned a lot during that run. But yeah, that's how I got into that company, and I didn't think I was going to be there that long, honestly.
Really? Okay. Why?
I thought it wasn't. I thought I could do more at the time. Like I was like, I'm going to be here as a stopover to get out of the other place,
Yep.
and then I'm going to find what I really want, if that makes sense. But then as I worked there, I realized this is what I really want.
Right.
Like it was the job that eventually became what was at the time my dream job.
Right.
So some of that cool startup stuff for sure, but that kind of wears away on me. Like I didn't really need all that eventually. But I got to make a lot of decisions. There was a lot of smart people. Um, I was able to give and receive respect in equal measure. A lot of support. Yeah, it's the Zebra's still around now, and I think they're doing great right now as well. Um, but yeah, that's kind of like that was the pretty much the theme of my tenure at the Zebra for those 4 years. Yeah.
So at that time, you also moved over from the engineering track to the management track.
Oh right. Yes.
I distinctly remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So describe why so this is your dream job. Why did you want to get into engineering management? And like, this is like your thing now. So,
This is my thing now. Yeah. This is my passion for sure right now. I working at the Zebra, there was a point where I realized that the technical challenges we had, the kind of things that I wanted to work on that would grow me professionally, that would excite me professionally, technically, they didn't exist at the time anymore. Some of those scaling challenges would be further into the future that I'd have to wait for them to show up. And then some of the initial MVP prototyping challenges were in the past. They already happened.
mhm.
So it was a good time to be there as an engineer and build things, but it wasn't. I think I had a conversation with my boss at the time. I was like, this isn't hard enough for me. Like, this isn't like enough on that side. And then I thought about like, well, I really like working here. It's a really great place to work at. And I still do think it's a really great place to work at. Um, so I was like, well, what about people management? Something I'd never thought about before, something I'd never tried in my life before, never saw myself as any kind of a leader. I don't really like using that word for myself, honestly. And I was like, this, if I was going to do that, this would be the safest, best place for me to do it. Right. Like growing into a management track here. So I let my boss know that, like, hey, I think, um, I think I might be interested in management because it was not something that was part of like my plan or whatever. And so it would be something that's be really uncomfortable putting myself in a spot where I had to make decisions. I had to cover uh, incidents. I had to be a calming force, all of those things. And yeah, the opportunity presented itself, and I was able to become an engineering manager there. And that first year was really hard, but I grew so fast.
Yeah, so you're at the handshake now, and I guess to capstone everything, you recently gave a talk on stage somewhere, and we started off by talking about your speech that you dodged back in freshman year. So,
Yeah.
how about you tell us about that?
Yeah. So there was a like when I was in at Everbank and I was watching conferences and I was learning about like conferences and all that kind of stuff. And actually, when you were going to your meetups as well in Jacksonville, I was like, oh, this is a really cool idea. I wish that, my fear of getting in front of a big stage, especially talking technically, marrying that business Sean and my technical side together, that would be a true test for my skills and how far I've come. And there's a call for proposals for um, what like the number one like engineering leadership conference in the world, Lead Dev. It happens in multiple cities around the world. They have them in San Francisco. I went to one in Austin before. They have them in New York, in Berlin, and London. And so there's a call for proposals for London. And on the last possible day of their deadline, um, I was talking to my wife and I told her, hey, there's this thing out there's doing a call for proposals. It'd be cool if I did that, right? And she just told me, yeah, you should just do it. Like, why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you just writing it right now? Why are you looking at me like that's like, and I was like, yeah, I can just do it. Like
Yeah.
it was something that I was so used to, like, oh, that's something other people do, like that kind of a thing.
Okay. Yep.
But it was this kind of thing where she helped me like realize, no, I've already brought like I already have this confidence from speaking in front of people. I know my stuff when it comes to the technical work. And what I was able to say, like, and I hope share my ideas with you on management. I know that stuff like the back of my hand because I've been practicing it and I really believe in it. And
Right.
I could talk about these things. So I wrote a an abstract about mentorship in particular and how I view mentorship because I actually mentor tech people in tech, so software engineers, product designers, product managers, all sorts of people through this website ADP list. And I've mentored people there for the past like year or so, and I view that as a way to upskill myself, to level up my own abilities. And my rationale for that, because it seems kind of weird to people, but this is what my talk was about, is that when you're managing a squad, a team, or so forth, you get used to those personalities on your team, and your experiences are just the experiences with those people on that team. And then as
Okay.
people come and go, you learn about like new situations. So when I went to speak at London for Lead Dev, I was talking about how I mentor people and what I get from it. So the talk was called "Why Mentoring Selfishly is Better Than Selflessly." Selfishly meaning that you as a mentor also get something out of this. You're not just giving it out for free. And by getting something out of this and motivating yourself in that way, you're able to bring more to the mentoring meeting, more to those mentorships than you would otherwise, because you have skin in the game, because you care, because you're trying to get something out of this. So yeah, that's what I talked about. And it was that was scary, but
Yeah, there was a lot
uh,
of people, it looked like.
yeah, there was like 800 to 900 engineering leaders at the Barbican. That stage, same stage that like Nelson Mandela and them had spoken at before. It's a historic, storied like
That's so cool.
area. And I remember getting on that stage, and there wasn't a coin in my pocket. There wasn't any of that kind of stuff. They
Yeah.
mic'd me up in like the Britney Spears like
Yeah. Oh
headset
yeah.
thing. They
Yeah.
gave me
Yeah.
that stuff. Um, and I got over the first hump, which was like, don't trip going up the stairs.
There
That
we
was my
go.
main thing.
There we
Like, don't
go.
trip. I already know this stuff because I talk about it all the time. I mentor people all the time. I have my engineers that I work with every day, working through problems and growing them. Um, and I just got to work. Just like how easy it is for me to talk to you about this, that's how it felt giving that talk. To the point where, as I was giving the talk, I had a second track in my brain that was saying, John, you're doing this. You're actually doing this. And
Yeah.
I was like
Yeah. Yeah.
watching the eyes all around the room, listening intently. Nobody was like yawning or like sleeping
Yeah.
or anything. Like I was actually super amazed and super proud of myself because like I had their attention. And while I was doing that, I was also just talking. And it was a
Yeah.
wild feeling because like this is automatic. I didn't have to bring out business, John. I knew this stuff like the back of my hand. And here I was like reading like my story, reading my thoughts. And I wasn't even like speaking it. I wasn't even really using like the prompter that they had there. Like I used it sometimes to like go over a statistic or something, but for the most part, I knew that I just knew everything I was going to say. I knew blind the slides that were coming up because I'd prepared a bit, of course, but also like this is just my life. This is just like how I view things. So
Right.
yeah, that was a that's when it really went like, and that was a goal that I had for 5 years, and now having accomplished this past summer, yeah, it felt really good. So yeah, I really feel like I've come into my own, and I have become a man, so to speak. Yeah,
Very good. Yeah, that's a really neat way to wrap it all up. Yeah, man. Wow. It's been quite a journey, man. I think this is our
yeah,
longest, it's probably the longest Go For It podcast, but it was definitely worth it. Thank you, John, for being on and sharing your story with
yeah.
us. And I hope it helps you who is listening to this. It's helping me, someone who's just here. Yeah, giving me a new perspective. So thank you, John.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks for having me. I love talking about these kind of things, and it is my passion is mentoring and growing software engineers and other people too. So, and I'm glad to have found it. Yeah.
That's legit. All right, cool.